It was around sunset when I curled up on the sidewalk in as many blankets as I could find so I wouldn't freeze. Buffalo winters are rough. A few minutes later, a black Mercedes G-Wagon pulled up to the curb and a man in a cashmere coat rolled down the window and stared at me. "What unit did you serve in?" He could tell I served from my camo-style jacket. I was 2nd Unit Marine Battalion, served 11 years and did 3 tours in Iraq. I run a small foundation that places vets into transitional housing. I have some guest cabins up north. I can offer you a bed for the night. Why don't you let me take you over there? My feet were starting to go numb, which meant frostbite wasn't too far off, so I got in the car. He started driving. His G-Wagon kept climbing up the winding mountain road and finally pulled up to his cabin, which was more like a mansion. He led me in, and I glanced over at his hunting wall and saw several animal heads sticking out. I thought it was strange because he left a thick coat of blood around each of the animals' necks where their heads were severed instead of cleaning it. Charles cooked me a 14-ounce ribeye, poured me a glass of red wine, and sat across from me. We toasted, and I quickly finished off the meal and my wine. I was so blown away by this man's hospitality that I stood up and hugged him. After dinner, he showed me the guest bedroom. "I'll see you in the morning, soldier. Wait until you see what kind of surprise I have for you for breakfast." The sheets and pillows felt like white fluffy clouds. I woke up at sunrise to the sound of my door opening and I sprung up, excited. I thought he was about to bring me breakfast in bed. Then Charles and 3 men walked in, each one of them holding different weapons. In all, there were 3 hunting rifles and 1 compound bow. My first thought was, "Aw man, I hope they have a good rifle for me to join the hunt." Then I felt a shiver run down my spine when I saw Charles pointing his rifle right at my face. "Good morning, Jake. Are you ready to be hunted?" Yeah. Is this some kind of joke?" "Nope. Nothing funny about the type of sport we play." I stayed as still as possible, beyond horrified. In the Marines, we learned to cover our emotions, but I was dying inside. I really liked the guy, and that annoying, nagging voice telling me that this was too good to be true was right again. Behind Charles was a beanie-wearing guy that was built like a refrigerator with a compound bow over his shoulder, an older gray-haired man with a shotgun and tactical vest. "I take it, you guys have done this before?" They all shared a perverted giggle, and Charles got closer to me. "Only 26 times before you. You inquired about what was in my treasure chest? Trophies of the dead." He said it so proudly. "We try to get out at least once a month and place our bets. How much is in the pot?" $2 million. Whoever takes you first, wins. We split it 4 ways if it takes more than one of us. I was morbidly curious. "Do you mainly target homeless folks?" Charles nodded. "They're the easiest to lure in, and I think I'm about done with the questions. Here." He tossed me a pair of work boots, a wool jacket, and a cheap utility knife. "You get the basics. We're not complete animals. How about a little breakfast before we start? How about a bullet pancake instead? Time's ticking, you loser bum. Go." Charles clicked his stopwatch. "You get a 10-minute head start." I slipped on the boots, grabbed my jacket, and sprinted out. Outside, I hit the tree line and noticed a maintenance shed about 40 yards behind Charles's cabin. I went around the cabin in a wide arc through the trees so they couldn't track my footsteps in the snow and came up on the shed from the back. I broke the lock with a fist-sized rock. Inside on a shelf, I found a roll of small paracord rope, a hatchet, a coil of 14-gauge electrical wire, binoculars, and a long-handled garden spade. I wrapped all of it in a tarp and slung the bundle over my shoulder. I had 8 minutes left before they started hunting, and I needed to get on higher ground to study them. They thought they were giving me a head start. They were giving me my workshop. I headed north and uphill, into terrain that I could read, and at the very top of the first ridge, I lay flat and watched the cabin through the binoculars. I watched the 4 of them gather their gear, split up, and start the hunt. Charles carried a bolt-action rifle with a scope, and he moved the way old hunters move, slow, patient, and reading the wind. I could tell that he moved in a relaxed, calm, calculated way, making him the most dangerous of the 4. The older guy with the shotgun moved through the trees like a man who'd spent every November of his adult life in snow country exactly like this. He was also very methodical because he knew he couldn't move like a youngster anymore and relied solely on his strategy. He'll also be a problem and won't act erratically. He was hyped up on energy drinks and coffee and was going to be the easiest simply based on how impulsive he was. The quiet beanie-wearing guy that carried the compound bow approached my position first. He thought that if he was very quiet, I wouldn't ever see him. Man, was he wrong. He closed the distance towards me the fastest, and that impressed me. He tracked my deliberate boot prints up a frozen creek bed about a quarter-mile north of the cabin. That was exactly where I'd wanted him to go. I was luring him into what we used to call the rabbit trap in my unit. I know it well because I got caught in this trap in basics during a training exercise. I saw him steadily approach my position. Then before he got too close, I rigged a shovel that was tied with a wire between 2 trees and propped the blade of the shovel pointing at chest height. I covered it with a few branches and leaves, then tied another wire across the trail in front of the shovel at ankle height, so if he stepped across the first wire, the shovel would propel itself into his chest. I made sure that my tracks that he was following led him directly into the booby trap. Then, as a backup, just in case the trap failed, my backup was me and my hatchet. I climbed up the nearest tree that was about 5 feet away and waited for him. He worked his way up the snow-covered hill and was just about to take a step across the wire, but he stopped cold and saw it stretched below him. I was impressed. The guy had a smart hunter's awareness. I realized that I had to act fast, so I leapt down towards him with my hatchet raised high. He twisted towards me at the last split second and got one shot off with the bow at point-blank range. The tip of the arrow barely grazed me across the left side of my ribs. I slammed the hatchet down into the side of his neck. He dropped his bow, keeled over in the snow, and clutched onto his wound. He coughed and choked up blood that sprinkled the snow, took his last few breaths, and died staring directly at me in shock. I always liked it better when the enemy fired at me first, with the intentions of killing me. It made me feel a lot better when I took them out in retaliation. I still get haunted by the ones that hesitated and never fired at me. This first asshole was easy work. I checked to make sure the others weren't anywhere near, then grabbed a handful of snow and packed my wound. Snow is natural ice and perfect for this type of injury. I stuffed strips of my t-shirt into it and bound it with paracord. It was bleeding through my makeshift bandage wrap in less than 2 minutes. I took his compound bow, his arrows, his lighter, his hunting knife, his radio, and his jacket. I put it on over my own. The dead man's radio crackled in my ear, and Charles's voice came through. "Walcott, check in." "Walcott?" I chimed in. "Walcott's not here right now. Go ahead and leave a message and I'll be sure to give it to him." "Oh wait, he's a little busy right now, down in hell getting rammed in the ass by Satan." The silence on the other end was thrilling for me. 1 down, 3 to go, shitheads. I hiked half a mile east. I got Walcott's body and dragged it about 60 yards uphill to a pine tree with a clear sight line down into a ravine. So much of this game is about planting questions in their heads. What's real? What's a distraction? Where is the attack coming from? Creating that unpredictability is what separates the pros from the amateurs. I propped his body up, sat him down against a tree, and arranged his arms to look like he was a man taking a break. I put his hat on his head and threaded a length of paracord through his sleeve and ran it 60 feet down the slope to where I was going to be, so I could twitch his arm from a distance and make a corpse look like a wounded man trying to raise his arm and signal for help. Then I clicked on Walcott's radio, and in my best older man voice, "It's Walcott. I need help. I'm injured." I doubted they would believe that transmission, but I wanted to give away my position, especially to Marsh. I had a hunch he would want to a hero, and I was giving him that opportunity. Then I hid in some thick bushes and waited. Like I thought, Victor Marsh approached me fast. He had used his scope to see Walcott's propped-up body and wanted to be a hero, so he stormed in to save the day. "Way to go, Superman, you idiot." He stopped about 20 feet in front of Walcott and realized that he was dead and that this might be a trap. I aimed Walcott's compound bow and fired an arrow at his head. At the last split second, he turned to me and ducked. The arrow grazed the top of his head, taking off a chunk of his hair and the skin on the top of his scalp. He yelped out in agony and turned red with rage. I loaded up another arrow into the bow, looked up and saw that he was gone. A small trail of his blood led towards a cave. It was now time for me to become the hunter. I quietly made my way towards the entrance and saw the blood specks lead inside. Based on how impulsive I knew he'd be, I grabbed a rock and tossed it into the cave and heard him fire off 2 gunshots. Itchy trigger finger anyone. Then I thought, shit, that might alert the others, so I needed to be quick about this. His hollow voice came out from inside the tunnel cave. "I bet you think you're pretty slick, don't you? I did give you one hell of a blood-soaked mohawk. I missed my calling. I knew I should have been a barber. And you may want to consider going on America as top model with that look, pal. You're real funny." I was the class clown in high school. I knew his nerves would seriously be on edge now, so I found another rock, tossed it into the cave and rushed in on the opposite side and slid on my knees. That way, if he was looking at eye level, he would have to take the extra beat to look down, and by then, I would have gotten off my shot. When I entered, I saw him aiming his rifle across the way from me, but was surprised at how quick he was when he whipped his rifle to face me. At the exact same time, we both fired our weapons. His rifle caught me across the right side of my thigh as my arrow stuck directly through his eye socket and out of the back of his head. He dropped to his knees, trembled, and died. I heard his radio go on with Charles checking in. "Marsh, you there? Come in. Marsh?" I grabbed the radio. "Hey there, this is Marsh's executioner. He's unavailable right now due to being overly anxious and just being an all-around c**k. Go ahead and leave a message and he'll never get back to you." Once again, the silence was wonderful. Then Charles still had to ask, "Blanchard, you good?" "I don't care if he hears me." The gray-haired man, that must have been Blanchard, chimed in. "Yeah, radio silent. Repeat, radio silent." "Aw, come on guys, we were all having such a lovely conversation." Charles couldn't help himself. "I can't wait to see the look on that smug, arrogant face of yours when I blow your fucking brains out, you little piece of shit. What happened to caring about those that serve this country, you corrupt rich prick? I don't give a shit about any of you. That's the most honest thing you've said. Come and get me, guys. I'm waiting for you." I hung up and took off around a snowy bend. I realized that these last two men were clearly the ones that built this twisted game and had successfully taken out many men before me. I had to find cover fast because I was now bleeding from two places. I took Marsh's Glock, 3 bullet magazines, and his AR-15 rifle that had an awesome scope on it. I rushed towards a small tree cover, dug into some brush, built another small fire, and tried to stitch up my thigh, but was failing and had lost a lot of blood. I looked out over the edge of the cliff and saw Blanchard quickly approaching my position. He was tracking the specks of blood I was leaving behind. My bandages could only do so much. He was a lot smarter and more careful than the other two. He never put himself in a vulnerable position, which meant I needed to be a lot more strategic if I wanted to take him out. If Blanchard was getting close, that only meant Charles was also nearby. I can only assume they would both be trying to trap me in from opposite sides. That's what disciplined hunters would do. Then I put together a plan for him where I would use myself as the bait. He's old, and I needed to take advantage of those brittle bones. I needed to draw him out to where the terrain is rough, and he can't get around as easy. I ran to an area of trees where I would want him to use his scope and spot me. Hopefully that would make him think he has me. I stood beside a tree, giving him just enough of my back so he can spot where I am, without it looking like I'm doing it on purpose. I used Marsh's scope from his AR-15 and could see Blanchard holding a corner of his sleeve loose against his cheek. He did that so he could test the wind and see if he could take a shot at me from where he was. I knew that if I shot at him from where I was, I didn't have a chance, so I waited. I wanted his old ass to make his way through this steep, snowy terrain where it's really easy to lose footing. I watched him through the scope as he aimed towards me, and he was definitely thinking about taking a shot. He decided that he couldn't, lowered his rifle and struggled to make his way up towards me. I started cutting into the base of a smaller-sized spruce tree with the hunting knife and got it right to the point where it was just about to fall. He made his way closer, saw me, and fired a shot at my head. The bullet whizzed by my ear. I ran and hid behind another tree and was hoping to use the falling spruce tree as a distraction that would hopefully give me a clean shot at him. He was looking old and wobbly as he stepped through uneven snow and got closer and closer. I saw the spruce tree starting to snap, crackle, buckle, and fall. I looked at Blanchard and saw him searching for me through his scope. Then he got too excited when he saw me, quickly stepped about 10 feet from my position and tripped onto the ground. As he landed face first, the spruce tree fell directly on top of his back and pinned him face down in the snow. I walked over to him. His back was broken in 2 places, and he was wheezing, which meant his lungs had collapsed from the weight of the tree. He had dropped his shotgun nearby and looked up at me. "You need to help me. I'm a county judge and I have grandkids that rely on me." I laughed. "Why do you think you're so much better than anyone else?" "Because I just am. Dust and bone. No matter how rich or poor, we all end up the same. But you're turning to dust quicker than I am. I demand you to help me. I am your elder, for crying out loud. That makes what you and your pals do that much worse, asshole. You take advantage of your power and deserve everything you're getting. I mean shit, you're getting off easy. You should see what I have in store for your pal." He snarled, then quickly tried to reach for his shotgun. I stepped on his wrist and blew his head off like an exploding watermelon. I rarely got a lot of satisfaction from killing, but that one gave me the tingly winglies. I started feeling really weak and woozy from blood loss and very little water. Plus, my adrenaline was waning. I searched his pack for any supplies and saw that he was out of water and had no food. I needed to somehow refuel and tend to my wounds. I didn't see Charles anywhere, which made me nervous because I knew he was watching me from somewhere. I came around the edge of a ridge, maybe a half a mile away from a lake at the bottom of his property, and I found a hunter's shed hidden behind tree cover. I very carefully aimed my gun, kicked the door open, and saw no one. I checked for booby traps and cleared it. Charles had built this place, probably for his previous hunting games. Inside, there was a small propane heater, a thermos of coffee that had gone cold, and a granola bar. I ate it fast and warmed my hands. The radio in my pocket clicked on with Charles's cracked, troubled voice. "I bet you think you're pretty special, killing an old, fragile man like that. Now that's comical. You assholes poked the hornet's nest and now you're the victim. Karma's coming for you, and it's going to be a slow, torturous death." He let out a guttural yell, and my plan to make him lose his composure was working brilliantly. But I still had to be very careful. He'd been a hunter for 40 years and built this sick game. He was patient, disciplined, and had a rifle that could put a bullet hole through a quarter from 300 yards away. And he'd had the entire morning to watch me work. He knew everything I'd done because he'd just watched me do it. He'd probably been 300 yards away the whole time, letting me take out the others. Then I remembered an old training exercise in the Marines we used to call the rat trap. I went outside, looked around and didn't see him. I needed to quickly set up my trap, so I started collecting wood and set up a tripwire 5 inches above the ground across the cabin door to be a decoy for something much worse. I laid out a few blood trickles so it would look like I went into the cabin. I spoke into the radio. "I found your cabin. Why don't you be a f***ing man and come down here and face me?" "I'd love to." I quickly snuck out about 30 yards outside of the cabin and climbed up a tree onto a small perch so I had the higher ground, and I patiently waited. Several hours went by and I knew he was planning an attack. Then I heard footsteps approaching and saw him heading towards the back of the cabin with his rifle aimed. Since he chose to go around to the back, I didn't have a clean shot at him. Hats off to him. That was smart. Luckily, I didn't plan my attack from inside the cabin. He might have gotten the drop on me. He searched inside the cabin, and then I watched him step out front. That's when I knew I had him. He looked down and saw the tripwire, shook his head and laughed. I expected that. I left the wire out in the open on purpose. That's when I aimed directly for the trap below his feet with my rifle. All I had to do was hit the wooden trap and it would catapult sharp wooden spikes into his midsection. I aimed and fired. To my surprise, I missed, which gave up my position. The reason I missed was because at that point, my hands were freezing and the cold was making them tremble. It took everything in me to hold them as steady as I could. He took 2 shots at me, which made me fall out of the tree, bounce on some hard ground and bust 3 of my ribs. I stood up, sucked in a huge breath, quickly aimed my rifle again at the trap near his feet and fired. I nailed it. The sharp wooden spikes catapulted up into his stomach and pinned him against the front wall of his small cabin. His whole body went limp, yet he was still suspended by the splintered wood. He had dropped his rifle and stared down, horrified. I walked over as he was spitting up blood. His head was drooping down, and he looked up at me with his cold eyes. "Congratulations, you win." "I didn't win shit, but guess what? You just won a life sentence of eating through a straw in prison." He stared at me, confused. "What the hell are you talking about? I'll be dead within minutes." "Nope. Try moving anything below your neck." He tried and was comically unsuccessful. "Those wooden spikes caught your spine, and the way your body and neck is slumped over right now suggests complete paralysis from the neck down. I've seen it before." It slowly dawned on him that I was right, and he begged, "Please, kill me. I'll do anything. I'll give you millions. How do you want it? Cash? Cars? Yacht? Don't make me suffer for the rest of my life. I'll give you whatever you want. I'm not for sale, dickwad." I kneeled down in front of him. "Get a good long look at me, asshole. Remember my face as the man that ended you and all of your friends." He started crying like the bitch-ass loser that he is. I walked away, radioed the police and told them the truth. After a thorough investigation, they concluded that I had the right to self-defense, and Charles spent life in a prison hospital being fed prison food through a straw. The VA got their act together and gave me enough money so I could get a place down in Florida on the beach. Plus, I can work construction down here all year round. F*** the cold.